Good evening, everyone, and welcome. It's time to call this regular meeting of the San Felipe Del Rio Consolidated Independent School District to order, today being Monday, November 14th, 2022. Madam Secretary, would you do us the honor of calling roll?
Yes, sir. Ms. Rebecca Luna Chavez.
Present.
Mr. Oberfeld.
Present.
Ms. Gonzalez.
Here.
Mr. Mesa.
Here,
Mr. Galindo.
Present.
Ms. Haynes.
not here.
And myself. Sir, we have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Let the record show that this meeting was duly called in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act. Texas, duly called and posted with, again, Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. At this time, we'll stand for opening ceremonies with a moment of silence for personal reflection. And now, to honor our veterans and those men and women who served, we will have Armed Forces medley by our fine arts students at this time.
Good evening, President Mesa, Dr. Rios, and members of the board. We have a small group of our Mighty Ram Band they're going to be playing an Armed Forces medley, which is honors several branches of the military service. So let me go ahead and turn it over to the students with the Armed Forces medley. We thank you, students, again for an awesome job. Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Rios. Okay, we'll follow now with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. You may sit down. This time on our agenda, we have item 5, citizens to be heard. Do we have anyone that signed up? No one signed up. Then we go to item 8, reports. First item we have is A, term 2, attendance and discipline reports. Dr. Rios.
Mr. Messer, Michelle can go over the report. Term 2 indicates a slight decrease from term 1. Compared to last year, it was an increase, but compared to this year's first 6 weeks, it was a slight decrease. I don't know if you all have individual questions or if you'd like for her to.
Any board member have a question? I'll make several comments. I'm so pleased with the secondary schools. Again, it seems that we're staying in the 90s, which is wonderful. So there's been a lot of improvement there. In the elementaries, there's competition. Bonnie Green has always done a great job. Buena Vista, Lamar. I think I'm a little bit concerned with Cardwell. Cardwell was one of the highest in previous years, and I know that, 3 and 4 year olds, but yet they had the highest average in the previous years. And so some work needs to be done there with Cardwell. It's gone to the 80s, I believe. Anyone else? This is what? Yeah. So I just, again, whatever can be done to, I know blended academy is low, but that's expected because, again, students are there for a temporary time. But again, all efforts are appreciated. Again, whatever's working for you to be able to get these students back. It's been difficult with the past 2 years with the pandemic and everything else that's been going on. But again, I appreciate the fact that secondary is keeping their 90+ percentage. So there being no other questions, we'll go to item 8B, facilities and construction update. Israel Carrera.
Good evening, Board President Mesa, Dr. Rios, members of the board. I have a short presentation project update for the San Felipe Del Rio Consolidated Independent School District. The first one being Ceniza Hills Elementary, and then the roofing contract. With Ceniza Hills Elementary, the roofing is about 85% complete. Interior framing is completed, and the exterior installation began at the gym, and then the block installation began also at the back of the gym. The electrical, plumbing, and HVAC continue to progress. The non-TPO roofing, the demolition has taken place at both the SPC and San Felipe Memorial Middle School. Roof weatherproof has been conducted. Tower replacement to take place next weekend at San Felipe Memorial School. And then weather permitting, the metal roof will be installed next week at SPC also. Any questions?
Board members? Josh?
No, sir.
Okay, no
Okay.
questions. Thank you,
Just
sir.
Short work
next-
order review. Maintenance department, 0 to 15 is at 89.1%. 16 to 30 days is at 74.9%. 31 to 60 days is at 80.9%. And 61 to 90 days is at 53.7%, and 90+ days is at 0. For technology, the 0 to 5 days or 0 to 15 days for technology work orders is 97%. The 16 to 30 days is at 75.2%. The 31 to 60 days is 80.4%. 61 to 90 is at 42%, and 90 is at 0%. Transportation, 0 to 15 days is 93.6%. At 16 to 30 is at 68%. At 31 to 60 days is at 49.9 or 42.9%. And 61 to 90 is 0%, and 90 plus is at 0%. Any questions?
Israel, on the technology section,
Yes, sir.
the last meeting I asked about the labs at all the schools. Are we up and running with all of them?
It's my understanding that everything's up and running. I think what they're lacking is the ones that we transferred to class from class. I don't know if we completed that already. We had a few elementary schools that needed the lab. The class computer set was all, but the labs are complete.
Okay. All the updates have been done and so forth.
Yes, sir.
Any issues with software? I know we've been, again, approving some of the previous software that normally we run in the classrooms and possibly in the lab, whether it's Accelerated Reader or Brain Pop or some of the other programs. Dr. Rios?
Not only are labs up and running, but every classroom has an operable computer on wheel set for every student. There might be one classroom that gained a student that might need a computer added to the port, but Mr. Salinas, there are no software issues at any one of the labs or any one of the computers. Is that correct? Okay, thank you.
Yeah. I asked that question because in the past we had some updates that kind of threw off some of the programs, and so as long as they're up and running, so that there's equity within the elementaries and secondary schools for participation in the programs.
Yes, sir.
We're starting to generate reports for usage, and so it's just again normal to make sure that we get the accurate information. If there's something that is not functioning somewhere, we want to make sure that that's addressed so that their percentages can be at equal with the rest of the schools.
Yes, sir.
There being no other questions, we're fine with facilities and construction. We go to item 8C.
Thank you.
Yeah, Sandra's going to come up, but he's completed. Go ahead, Sandra, you're next.
Next item we have is item 8C, intruder detection audit report findings for Del Rio High School. Sandra Hernandez.
Good evening, President Mesa, Dr. Rios, and members of the board. I'm going to open up this presentation. The purpose of my presentation here tonight is to let you know that the school district has had a Texas school safety intruder detection audit at Del Rio High School. The audit tests whether a campus is accessible to an unauthorized individual. This audit is conducted as part of Governor Abbott's school safety directives for all school systems in Texas following the tragedy in Uvalde. Excuse me. On October 17th, an intruder detection audit was conducted for Del Rio High School by the Texas School Safety Center inspector, and the inspector was able to gain unsecured, unauthorized access to Del Rio High School. Due to these audit findings, the district was required to complete some corrective actions, and those corrective actions were that we were to provide a report of these findings to the District School Safety and Security Committee. We were to provide in-person training to staff and substitutes on procedures for ensuring school safety, student and staff safety in school buildings. And that entailed the following, which are building access protocols, visitor protocols, exterior door protocols, classroom door protocols, and weekly exterior door sweep protocols. The next corrective action was to provide at the public at the next regularly scheduled board meeting, which is today. The intruder detection audit was conducted by the School Safety Center, and that a corrective action was put into place due to these findings. So we completed these actions already. The intruder detection audit findings were reported to the School Safety and Security Committee on Wednesday, November the 2nd. Staff and substitute training was conducted on Tuesday, November the 8th, and Wednesday, November the 9th, in multiple sessions. And the completion of the public notices today, November 14th, 2022. And due to the nature of school safety and school security, we do have an agenda item in closed session where we can provide more details to the board. And that concludes my presentation.
Questions?
Oh, they'll come during closed.
Okay.
Thank you.
Dr. Rios, I guess I'll ask a question here. This continues, right? This audit will continue?
Yes, sir. As part of the governor's orders, these audits will continue throughout Texas and every school district consistently to ensure that we're following protocols for school safety, for school and building safety.
So Dr. Rios,
Yes, sir. We had another visit today. The visit was at Del Rio Middle School. My understanding is that the staff at Del Rio Middle School did, everything was in place. They were not able to gain unsecured entrance, and the door checks and the paperwork and everything was intact. So congratulations to Ms. Ujurado and the staff at Del Rio Middle School. Good job, sir.
good. So are those all the schools that will be audited?
No, sir. Before they are done, approximately 70% of all the campuses in Texas will be visited. So for us, 70%, we still have about, to get to that point, we still have about 12 more campuses to be visited.
And these are all surprise visits, unannounced?
Yes, they are unannounced and they're random.
No, sir. They let us know a week in advance. They let me know and they let the chief of police know. The campuses don't know about them, but myself and the chief of police know.
Okay. All right, well, I hope, again, congratulations to Del Rio Middle School. I hope we continue with our protocols and making sure that all buildings are secured. And I know we have several items tonight on purchasing, additional locks and so forth. So, thank you. Next item we have is item 8D, the annual bilingual/ESL report. Ida Gomez and Karen Schaefer.
Good evening, President Mesa, Dr. Rios, and members of the board. The presentation that we're presenting tonight, you do have a copy before you, and it is an annual requirement that we do present this information. Bilingual ESL annual presentation. We're going to discuss the compliance, the audit folders, and the student placement, program enrollment with exits, graduation and dropout rates, professional development, and curriculum connection and support. We'll start off with compliance. There really haven't been many changes with our compliance except for the fact that we've gone to an electronic mode rather than paper and pencil. So you'll see here the annual, the Region 15 comes in, does the training for LPAC chairs. We have that at the beginning, middle, and end of the school year. We also have the LPAC meetings at the campus levels, which are conducted every 20 days. They're scheduled via a timeline. So if a student comes in next week, from the day they come in, they have 20 days to be LPAC'd. Another student comes in the following 2 weeks from now, they have 20 days. So if you can catch them in there, it doesn't mean we have to wait 20 days. So we try to catch, the 8 or 9 that come in during that window time. We also have the continuation of electronic procedures for LPACs and their documentation. What we're doing now is Ms. Schaefer and her team have developed a Google Sheet. And you'll see a little sample of it in the next couple of slides. But the Google Sheet has all the information that's needed. When did the student enroll? When was he tested? What are his results? What is his placement? The Google Sheet has actually helped us be able to track the over 2,000 bilingual students that we currently have. The end of the year LPACs are very important. Most of the time at the end of the year, we close out the year before the results come in from either TELPAS or from STAR. So we close them pending those grades, those results. Then once the results come in, the summer working staff actually updates everything. But we do have the LPAC, we do talk about next year's placement, so forth, just pending the results. And then finally, just a reminder again that it is a 20-day requirement. They do follow that continuous process, so it's very difficult to set up a timeline because it's 20 days from the day the student enters. This is a sample of the assessment log, and you'll see there that the team has done a very nice job of putting a sequence together. It can be manipulated, sorted for all the campus needs, but you'll see in there their home language survey. HLS is just the home language date, when it was completed. Are they new? Are they returning? Are they a transfer student? It's very important to the campus. Campus doesn't know, you've been home for 2 years, where were you? So we gather that information at the department, and then we put it on the Google Sheet so that a principal can just go in and say, okay, he wasn't here, he was here last in first grade, where's his data? So the Google Sheet makes it easier for the campus. The next log you'll see is the beginning of the year audits. Again, it's a Google Sheet that was created, and it has all the information because the compliance with bilingual is probably the most difficult part to manage every 20 days. So keeping the dates intact, keeping the documents intact, and trying to keep every 20 days, that's once a month, to try to keep that information revolving. That's why I guess a template like this had to be developed. We definitely have the templates that we submit everything to the state, but this is more internal to keep everybody understanding the same information. Now, how do we ensure that a student is properly placed? The entering students are identified and placed according to the assessment results, and those are on the assessment log. So you come in today and you enroll. You show up at your zoned campus, and we test you. Now, if you come in at pupil services and they ask you what primary language do you speak at home, and you say Spanish, and what do your parents speak Spanish, we're probably going to zone you towards one of our bilingual academies for testing. If you come in, of course, and say English, we're going to zone you. It may be the bilingual academy, but it may just be the general ed campus. So once you're tested, the bilingual director makes sure that everything's placed. And what we were tasked with probably 4 or 5 years ago, Dr. Rios asked that as the rosters are completed at the beginning of the year, that the director goes in and actually looks at the roster and ensures that all the students in that class are beginner or intermediate. It's a double check, it is manual, but everybody's busy, everybody's overworked, everybody's, rushed. So this just ensures that before school starts, there's been a second set of eyes to make sure that our bilingual beginner intermediate students are in the right class. On top of that, sometimes it happens where we don't have a bilingual certified teacher. And when that happens, we have to place them with an exception or a waiver teacher, and that's okay. We notify the parent, we place them, but we also notify the state. So for instance, our state compliance exception and waiver report was submitted on November 1st. From there, we have meetings with them. They'll reach out to us. They're going to ask, what are we doing to try to recruit more teachers? You know, they'll look at our scores. And so it's a process. It's a collaboration with Susie Coltrus and her team. But that's definitely something we have to do whenever we have a teacher that's not certified. So our current district enrollment in 2022-23, we do have some historical data for you. But if I'm looking across the top line, 9,957 students, of which 2,052 are emergent bilingual. That's their new term they're using. That equates to 21%. Now, out of the 2,052, 279 students are being serviced by two programs, bilingual and special ed. So that's 3%. That would be two services. This is just the enrollment by the 4 bilingual academies. You'll see that you have 2,661 students, total enrollment. Of those, 38%, which is 1,021, are actually bilingual students. Of those, 9%, which equates to 94 at the bilingual academies, are being serviced by two programs, bilingual and special ed. And we also have 22 migrant students in the district at the academies, which is 2%. I'm sorry, immigrant. Now this slide. I gave you some historical data. Students have to meet criteria in order to exit the bilingual program. You'll see that in 2018, 19, and 20, our exit numbers were much higher than what they were in 21 and 22. So the last time we reported in 2020, we had 111 students that met the exit criteria. It's not by grade level, it's by criteria. Then in 2020 and 2021, there was new exit criteria that came, that was passed. Oh, doesn't want to move. So in 2019, 2020, the criteria that was changed. Before that, our students, there's 4 domains. There's reading, writing, speaking, and listening. So I should say listening, speaking, reading, and writing. Those are the 4 components. The only one that students had to score advanced high on an actual test was the writing. So they would actually score it, and if you became advanced high and you had the advanced in the other components, you could exit. Now there's been 2 changes. The first change is that students must meet advanced high in all 4 components. And there's only beginner, intermediate, advanced, and advanced high is the highest. So in listening, advanced high, in speaking, advanced high, in writing, advanced high, and in reading, advanced high. That's the first change. The second change is that listening and speaking, the teacher used to rate it. She had a rubric, and she would look at it and say, you know, this student is doing this, this, and this, so therefore they qualify for advanced or advanced high. Now the students have to take the test online. So they listen online and respond. They have to speak online, which has been very difficult. They have to have microphones, a lot of practice. The microphones are sensitive, the ones that we have. It does cause some, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not a clear sound. That's very difficult. So we have been practicing that with the students. The K-12 Summit that we've referred to multiple times is specifically meant for that. We also have the writing, which is online, and the reading, which is online. So those are the 2 big changes. The other change was in 2019-2020, the Lost Links was used in lieu of TELPUS. Lost Links is a test that we would administer here. Now the students have to take their TELPUS composite and use that. The graduation dropout rates, we've given you all the historical data, but you'll see in 2021, the 4-year graduation rate for our bilingual students, ESL, was 79.1. The dropout rate in 2021 is 12.7. They're always a year behind, so that's the last information that we have. A couple of months ago at a board meeting, the board did approve an ESL strategist for every campus. You'll see here the bilingual academies have one, middle school has one, Del Rio Middle School 7th and 8th. The 4 non-academies share one, and then we do have one at 9th grade and all of high school. So these are the check marks are the locations where the strategists are actually situated at. The goal is for strategists to work with students in small groups. They actually meet with Mrs. Schaefer and her team every Friday from 1 to 4. There's trainings that are provided to the strategists during that time. Then they turn around and train the campus teachers after school or when time is allotted. The strategists also have to monitor students, their failure list, their attendance, Summit K-12, Lexia usage. And then they need to provide the teacher assistance as requested. Just for an example, we do have professional development that's offered 2 to 3 times a month. It's offered to kinder through 12th grade bilingual ESL teachers. Embedded language development strategies are a focal point, along with, we do have campuses that request specific trainings. Our resources, we have phonics for reading that is used in kinder through 12th grade. That is a direct resource to help our indicator 8 on the RDA, the results driven accountability. We also have Hagerty phonics awareness that's used in kinder 1st and 2nd bilingual classrooms. We have Bridge the Gap phonics awareness that's used 3rd through 12th grade with those students. We have Making Words, our instructional aids, especially in kinder 1st, and our newcomers focus on making words. And then we have the Summit K-12, RDA Indicator 9. Those are the 2 big indicators that we focus on in the district. Classroom teachers, lab time is when they use it, and also a new Lexia language that's specific for kinder and 1st grade bilingual students. Some of the available PD topics are also listed on the right, but you'll see in red, we focus on academic content and literacy, text evidence, background knowledge, and a big resource that we use is Flipgrid, where the students actually videotape themselves, they actually record themselves, and then they hear themselves using the Chromebooks. The next 2 slides talk about indicator 8 and 9 that I referred to. Indicator 8, this measures how long a student is classified as a beginner. We only have 2 years to move a student from beginner to intermediate. So if a student was a beginner last year and this year in TELPUS, they rate as beginner, we will see that on our accountability report because we didn't move them out within 2 years. Indicator 9 is a composite score. We have 5 years to get students to the advanced level. So we are monitoring both of those indicators. They are on the results-driven accountability table that I will be sharing more information in a board communique. The results just came in over the weekend. So we want to share part of it today, but the entire report I'll share so you don't have to wait. Just a reminder that the TEKS are included to be taught in the general ed class with available resources for all our bilingual students. Vocabulary is always included in all of our documents, as you've seen on the planning protocol dashboard and other presentations. Each planning guide has the associated ELPs where the teacher just hovers and they don't have to go research. They just hover and it'll tell them what the ELPs is. And then Region 4 did a phenomenal training in August with over 400 teachers. We purchased all the resources that they recommended, so all the teachers do have those in their classrooms. The strategist training for support using the curriculum documents. You'll see that there's TELPUS prompts, and that's just to get the students accustomed to what the TELPUS is going to look like. Again, the same resources I mentioned earlier, the phonics for reading, the Lexia language, the Summit K-12, the Flipgrid. Background knowledge, the use of graphic organizers, small groups. Our strategists are only working with groups of 3, no more than 5 when necessary. But the average group is 3, and all the students have to be on that indicator 8 or 9 to qualify. We went to a reading conference. We do have a new strategy that's being used. It's the QA, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then, as mentioned, we have the newcomer, Kinder and First, Making Words activity. So the bilingual program is part of a federal accountability system that monitors our special ed, our bilingual, and our other programs such as homeless foster care. They rate us in several indicators, and I will do a presentation. However, at this time, what they do is they give us a determination level. A 1 is good. Well, I'll show you. A 1 would be you've met the standard. A 2 means that you need assistance. But a 3 or a 4 means that you need interventions. You'll see that last year, our RDA determination level was a DL3, determination level of 3, meaning that we needed interventions. This year, again, we did score, although when you see the report, we did make gains in many areas. The one area that we did not make big gains was the exits of students, so we are a determination level of 3. That means that we have to partner up with the federal government and the state to create a plan of action. It's a series of meetings. We do submit a plan, then they review it, and they speak to us, and they either approve it or they kick it back for more clarity. But we did it last year. We did make some gains, but we will be meeting with Susie Coltrus and her team again. And that's the annual report. Any questions?
Can you go back to the slide that shows the number of exits?
Yes, sir.
So, Mr. Mesa, members of the board, that second to the last column there, the number of exits, that's what's going to trip us up. The report that we shared with you showed gains everywhere, in every one of the indicators, but the number of exits is where we have to get better as a district, and that means across the district, particularly at the academies, implementing the strategies as they are designed. Because if they're not, then the students aren't going to make progress in each one of the components and pass the STAR test on top of that. So our plan is not going to change too much from the previous year, except that the monitoring of the strategies as they're designed to make sure that they're implemented as they're designed across the board. I think that we have all the softwares in place, we have all the technologies in place, we have the personnel in place. The only difference is we have to make sure that we're being faithful to implementing the programs as we have designed them. And we've been meeting weekly about it. We met just this afternoon with the principals. And like I said, I don't expect that our plan is going to change much. We just have to be very faithful to implementing it to a T.
Thank you for that explanation. I have lots of questions. I'll start with some first,
Yes, sir.
and then I'll turn it over to board members. There's a big component that is left out here, and that's parents. In the past, students entering kindergarten, the majority of parents denied. There were parent denials. No, I don't want my student, they already know Spanish. I don't want them going to a bilingual class. They don't understand that there's learning going on everywhere. And so if they don't understand the language, you're burdening a teacher from having that student because they are non-English speakers. And then they go on in the regular program, and then, they do not meet the requirements. The other thing that has always happened is PEIMS misidentification. That happens mainly starting with 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade. New students coming in are misidentified with PEAMS. 6 weeks goes by, and then parent conferences, and, they find out that this student has been either in a different district or somewhere else, and they came in, they were misplaced, going into secondary. It happens quite a bit. The other part is high school. We don't have enough ESL certified teachers. A lot of these students were going through classes that, again, have English-speaking teachers, not ESL certified, and so that was an issue. But again, if we have a strong parental program where these things can be explained for especially entrance into kindergarten, first grade, where they have to, again, be able to understand the teacher to learn. And if they don't know English, they're going to be missing out on the education part. Another component, supportive material, because when principals go to TEPSA or their conferences, there's exhibit halls with tons of material. And so if they're not aware of it, there's plenty of bilingual material, ESL material, and then the allocations, because we, as a board, kept the allocations pretty much the same for campuses, even though cost of materials, everything has gone up. But at least some consideration from the principals to allow more monies to go into the bilingual classes, ESL classes, for purchasing the materials. Now, I'm glad that Region 4 had some of the resources. And of course, the monitoring, you mentioned monitoring there, because it's a big part of it. Again, to make sure that students are either meeting the grade requirements, passing their exams as far as STAR tests and whatever else. That's a big part of it too. And so, to me, the more help you get from the parents, the better off they're going to be, because again, as I mentioned, even for our regular students, there's lots of resources from our commissioner. TA Commissioner Mike Morath has posted a lot of good information for resources and follow up with parents, and even textbooks that they need to read either in English or Spanish to be able to be on grade level. And so I think, to me, I just want to make a big resounding call for more parental involvement, to be able for them to understand what these requirements are for students to be able to go on to the next grade level and again, be able to exit the program. I know, Karen, you have big shoes to fill, but a lot of these students, having served as a bilingual teacher, I had students at the 6th grade telling me, speak to me in Spanish. You've been here since kindergarten? You haven't learned English yet? Those kind of things that they have to understand, that there's a program in place for them to be able to acquire the language and acquire the skills that they need to be able to exit the program and eventually move right ahead. And then, of course, to help out the graduation rate, because that's the biggest thing right now, that we want all the students to graduate. And so I think this is a population that does not help, where we have 12.7% dropout rate. That's huge. But again, it goes start from pre-K, K first, for the parents to be able to understand that, this is how the program is set up, and we want for them to understand, and also to be able to assist us in every aspect of school. Okay, I'll turn it on. I talk too much. Ms. Webb?
In addition to the comments that Mr. Mesa has made, I understand that the students have to pass all 4 in order to exit. However, I am also aware of the fact that we have students that have passed the STAR,
Yes.
but failed one of the criteria in the domain.
Yes, ma'am.
So does the LPAC committee make that determination along with the teachers, or how is it determined that even though they passed everything in STAR, they're still considered bilingual because they did not meet one of the criteria or one of the domains? And we also have to realize that a lot of our students are not very good online test takers. So that being said, what can we do to assist our students if they've passed STAR and are missing one of the criteria for the domains?
Let Karen answer.
Good evening. So they still have to take it online, unfortunately, because that is a question that I've asked too. Just the fairness of it just didn't seem right. So when we posed the question, that's what I understood it to be, that they have to take it again in an online fashion. So the teachers cannot decide, how to proceed with that testing, even if it's just one. It's that one indicator that's keeping them behind.
It used to be different, ma'am. The assessments were graded by the teachers. Now it's all online. That's why earlier they mentioned we have to do things about giving them enough time practicing talking into the microphone, because when they talk to the microphone, if they don't understand the appropriate distance and the pronunciation, the recording's going to come across garbled, and then they're really not even going to get scored. So unfortunately, our teachers don't have that say anymore, because they're not the ones grading it anymore. That's why the interventions that gear towards passing those 4 components have to be on point. If we believe that the interventions make a difference, then we need to make sure that those interventions are exactly as they're prescribed, because it's all out of our hands now. It used to be the way you were describing, but they up and changed the rules on us, and that's what we're facing now.
And how many newcomers do we have?
The newcomers, I actually don't have a number in front of me, but it is quite a few, because that number changes pretty much daily. So I can get that number to Mrs. Gomez and have that to you, but it is quite a few. But we're addressing as they come, as anything comes my way as far as what we need, I research it and I make sure that that's addressed. So one of the things is, one, to have my numbers in front, so next time you ask. However, even those students, newcomers, K1 and newcomers, because they're kind of separate, we don't have RDA, they haven't taken a TELPUS, we are addressing those needs specific. If they are needing extra materials, for whatever the case might be, we make sure it's research-based so that, Mr. Amesa, your comment is totally taken into context of how we need to improve whatever we have available, but make sure it's just not all willy-nilly. It is something that would help students. We need to grow them. We need to listen to parents. So I know that we have a parental liaison who helps parents already, but I think now listening to you, I need to grow that part so that it extends not only for elementary, but to all grades. So I can only move forward with your questions and take them very seriously and address them specifically and quickly.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Ms. Becky?
Can you hear me? Yes. All I can say is that, the percentage of students being exiting something needs to be done to upgrade that percentage. And again, sometimes we assume that all students are excellent with the online or the technology, but if that is not practiced, and that would be the first priority, practice, practice, practice on that, even though it seems senseless, but it is the biggest thing that if the test that they're going to take is going to be online, then definitely that needs to be practiced quite a bit. And I know everybody's doing their very best, but I think we need to look at the bilingual program and take it more seriously and just be checking what else can be done. Parents, number one, need to be, and I'm sure they are, but involved, but I think it really needs to be looked at a little bit more.
Josh?
I have a quick question. On the slide where you were talking about process to ensure proper student placement, you, you were going through and explaining that and made a comment that jumped out to me. And I'm curious about, so either y'all or Dr. Rios can announce it, but you said in there, and I quote, that they're overworked and rushed. Can you elaborate on overworked and rushed?
Yes, sir. The rosters at the beginning of the year, the principals are putting out all the rosters and assigning beginner intermediate students to certified teachers. But as they're doing 500-600 students, or at the bigger academies, 800, there is the possibility, and it has happened, where an advanced student gets placed in there or a beginner student gets placed in a general ed class. It's bound to happen because we don't use the same master schedule in elementary that we would in a secondary classroom. That is the reason that we've been tasked with going through every roster. We highlight every student. We actually look it up, cross-reference. We actually do it in special ed too. It's just that second set of eyes, and maybe rushed wasn't the right word, or overworked. Just saying, when those rosters come out, when the principals come back, there's 4 weeks before school opens, and it's a lot of work. So by having the department look at every single student, it just ensures the correct placement.
Okay.
Mr. Overfelt, this is a process that we would do anyway for the PEAMS update, but we, as Mr. Mesa alluded earlier, we don't want to wait until October 30th when PEAMS is due to say, oh, this student wasn't placed appropriately. And having worked at the school before, you know that just like schedules sometimes get put out with one less class or 2 classes, these human errors occur sometimes, and sometimes they're caused by our computer. So it's important that we double check. We do it manually for bilingual and special ed students because that's even more of an at-risk population. So we try to minimize the mistakes, and then we try to check again to make sure that any mistakes were corrected.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? I'll close off by saying that, you know, as a board, we just discussed superintendent goals, and a couple of years back, we had the bilingual program as one of the goals to improve. And you know, I look at the percentage of that subgroup, bilingual ESL students, ESL, and the dropout rate, and then, you know, a 3, which is unacceptable. You know, this is how important the goals are, to be able to move on and improve when we bring attention to those areas that we're weak in. And again, I'm not getting it, you know, after you or the principals. I'm just telling my board here that it should be a priority, should be goal number 1. Okay, that's all. Yes, Dr. Rios.
Mr. Mesa, we are going to present the goals for approval today. Would you like for us to table it and bring it back, review a goal for bilingual?
That's it. Question the board.
I mean, if you're feeling that strongly about it after what we've heard here, then I think it would be appropriate to bring it back with that revision. That way we can look over it one more time.
Everybody's in agreement? Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President Board.
Next item we have is item 8E, targeted improvement plans. Ida Gomez.
Good evening again, President Mesa, Dr. Rios, and members of the board. We have 3 campuses that have a targeted improvement identification. They've been identified as needing targeted improvement back in 2019. However, because of COVID and not being rated, here we are in 2022-23. So at this time, we'd like to share the 3 campuses and the target improvement plans. The actual plans were included in your packets last week. That's the 26-page document. Tonight, what we're going to present is a summary of the history behind the targeted identification and the processes. The 3 campuses identified were Dr. Fermin Calderon, Garfield Elementary, and North Heights Elementary. In 2018-19, 3 of the campuses were identified as targeted support and improvement needed. This identification qualified the 3 campuses to apply for the Effective Schools Framework Focus Grant. All 3 applied. Districts did not receive an accountability rating in 2019-20, or 2019-20 and 21, and the focus grants were awarded for 2 years, for the 2021-22 school year being the first year, and then this year being the second. Let's do some historical background as to the grant. You'll see here that the 3 campuses on their Closing the Gap, federal accountability at the bottom, it does show that all 3 met the identification for schools needing improvement. It's a Domain 3 issue, or that's where the information comes from, is from Domain 3, and you're familiar with that on the state accountability. It's not moving. One moment. So federal accountability, we're very familiar with the state accountability, the domains. There is that Domain 3 at the very end. Campuses that are identified for targeted support, that's part of the federal accountability system. Domain 3 under the state accountability system is the federal portion that ties in. This domain is normally referred to as closing the gap. You have student achievement, and then you have growth, and then you have closing the gap. The domain in elementary measures 14 subpopulations of students, and those are listed at the very bottom. Now, a campus does have to have 25 students in that subpop for it to qualify. So although there's 14, campuses may only qualify under 8 of them, 7 of them, 6 of them. They have to have 25 all students, 25 African American, 25 Hispanic, 25 white, and so on. What they look at is the academic achievement in reading and math in each one of those subgroups. The growth status, the English language proficiency status, and the student success status. So 4 different areas for all of these groups per campus. So, having mentioned the 3 campuses were identified as needing targeted support at the time because of Domain 3, the ESF Focus Grant was awarded to each one of the campuses for $162,362.34 to be spent over a 2-year period. Now, when we applied for the application, the principals worked very hard. The region came down and assisted us in the preparation of the documents. At that time, they informed us that they could be our partner. We had to partner with somebody. So TA did have a list of people that we could partner with, but the region was on that list. So at that time, working with them, we decided to contract with our region center. The cost for each of the schools is $15,000 per year. So $30,000, $162,000. They each had about $132,000 left over to spend. You'll see here that after paying the region, the campuses have the flexibility based on their campus improvement plans and needs to either purchase resources and materials, professional development. They even had leadership plans and meetings prior to school starting, and they were able to pay their teachers for coming in July. From Region 15, we do have the 3 representatives here with us today. We have Dr. Michael Bohensky, Rob Hollis, and Ryan Knickerbocker. Those are the 3 that partner up with each campus. Although they work very well together, each campus has an individual partner. This is their 2nd year of implementation. Now, what is it that they partner with? Not only did they help us write the application and get it submitted and get it approved, they actually come down and they provide professional development for principals. Right now, they're here because today they had a professional development with principals and cluster leaders in the morning. They also go to the campuses and conduct walkthroughs with principals for calibration to make sure that we're assessing teachers correctly. They mediate meetings with TA. Anytime you get money, you know that there's a lot of demands and mandates from TA or the federal government. They're kind of our go-between. They assist the principals in that area. They also assist with goal settings and data collections, and they submit quarterly reports to TA for us along with the end-of-the-year reports. So the 3 campuses were asked, because it's a closing the gap area that needed intervention, they were asked to submit a closing the gap goals, and those are provided for you. Dr. Fermin Calderon said that due to a significant growth made in 2022 accountability year, they have an overall B, and their goal is to have a B again in 2023. The campus plans to increase the overall score by making an impact in Domain 3, closing the gap. The campus scored an overall domain score of 75 in 2022, and an increase of a minimum of 5 percentage points will move them to an 80 for Domain 3. Intentional planning to benefit data meetings that improve academic achievement for all students, and specifically reading, will be the focus to make this goal a reality. Garfield Elementary's closing the gap goal is stated: by the end of the 2022-23 school year, 60% of all students will be at the meets level in reading and in math. And the North Heights closing the gaps goal states by June 2023, North Heights Elementary will increase academic achievement for all students by 15% in both reading and math. Meeting this goal will allow our overall achievement to increase in meets and masters, which also increases Domain 1. That's part of the plan. Because it was a closing the gap need, there had to be closing the gap goals. But on top of that, all 3 campuses got to choose which essential actions they were going to focus on. All 3 campuses actually chose the same essential actions. You'll see that essential action 5.1, they're focusing on effective classroom routines and instructional strategies. And action 5.3, data-driven instruction. So those are the areas when the region comes down that they get PD on or that they discuss. The 2-year cycle and process is divided into 4 cycles, and each cycle includes a 90-day outcome. So it doesn't go too long. They don't go a half a year or at the end of the year. Every 90 days, they have to meet to say, where are we? What are we doing correct? Are we increasing? What do we need to shift? And so forth, every 90 days. The essential actions include key practices that are discussed, the rationales, how to build capacity in the essential actions, desired annual outcome, and are we on track? District commitment, what is it that the district needs to support them in? Desired 90-day outcomes, and review and evidence of achieving the annual outcome. When they submit to TA, we can't just say, we think we did good, our teachers are doing real well. We have to actually submit DMAC data, observation data, scores, whatever the data is. The next 3 slides are just campus profiles of the campuses. You'll see the first one is Dr. Fermin Calderon. It is a 3-year historical. So you will see in Domain 3 right here, there's a 2018, the red one is the 2019, they had a 74. We did not have an accountability in 2020 or 2021, so in 2022, they did score a 75. If you look at domain 2, which is the scale score, you'll see that they've come from a 65 in 2018 to a 91, right here. Also over here, you'll see they've gone from a 65 to an 86 overall. The next one is Garfield Elementary. Their domain scale score has gone from a 67 to a 74 when they were targeted to a 79 last year. So they have shown some increases. Their domain growth scores, though, have gone from a 67 to a 91. And their overall has gone from a 68 to a 87, which is this area. And our third campus that was awarded the grant is North Heights Elementary. They've gone from in domain 3, from a 62 to a 73. And domain 1 from a 59 to a 79. And overall from a 59 to a 77. So we wanted to share the 3 targeted improvement plans so that you know that we do go out for grants, and these campuses were awarded the opportunity to partner up, and they did. The region has been a big supporter. Not only do they contact us or answer our phone calls, our emails, we've also partnered up so that it's not just the 3 campuses, because what's happening at the 3 campuses is good. But we have another 5 elementary campuses that could be learning the same. So we have partnered up. For instance, this morning, they came, and they come 6 times a year. They meet with principals and their cluster leaders. Then in the afternoon, they go and meet with these 3 campuses. And then tomorrow, they split up and visit all the campuses to do the walkthroughs and to continue sharing the information. The next slide just shows the topics of training and the dates that they're scheduled to be here. We did ask them if they wanted to join us tonight, since they were here today and tomorrow, and they are here in the audience, right back there.
Ask some questions.
Are there any questions?
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you for being here. I'm sure you could have gone to Rudy's barbecue. But we appreciate all the assistance you're giving the campuses, and again, with all the monitoring that's going on. As always, I have a bunch of questions, but I'll limit it to a few. You know, with the redesign of the STAR tests, that being so huge in the minds of all board members, even with the regular sub-pops, much less bilingual students. I mean, there's the redesign is huge. And so, besides all the interventions, there's a lot of things that have to be done to have these students either, you know, again, not multiple choice anymore, but to draw down the answers, to make conclusions, to use several subject matters to be able to answer the question. And so, you know, I'm just thinking how difficult it will be for this subgroup to be able to, again, everything online besides, you know, again, not all the campuses took the test online, but this will be the new requirement. And so, what is being done to address the redesign of the STAR test?
Well, we both know the information.
I can answer.
Just talk to them about the at-bats that we give the kids, the tests that were created through DMAC, so that they get enough
Absolutely.
practice, and the curriculum work about integrating different subject areas.
Okay. The first thing that we're doing, Mr. Mesa, is all the assessments are now being formulated into a DMAC format. That means we actually drop the test, and when we look at the questions, we actually change them into one of the 14 redesigned questions. So that's the first thing. That is for progress monitoring, which is every Friday, in some instances every 2 weeks, and definitely the 6 weeks. So that's multiple times. We've also brought before you a couple of platforms that we're using. One of them is the Education Galaxy, which is now Presence. It's not Presence Learning. That's the contract, but it's got a new name, but it's the same format. That one, when the students go on their Chromebooks, all math and reading is definitely following the same practice. So that's good. They're getting the practice there. We're also working on cross-curricular, which is going to be big. They've already told us that the new state test, the ELA, is going to incorporate a lot of science and social studies. That's also incorporating the 14 type questions and short answer. We also had principals attend a reading conference, and they brought back some strategies for writing, specifically for writing, with Gretchen Barnaby's processes. We had her many years ago, and she is still doing trainings. They're sharing those with their other principals, with teachers. I know the bilingual department just shared it with the strategist. So the documents are being updated, all the assessments are being updated, so the practice is there either weekly, bi-weekly, or on every summative.
Thank you for answering my question. I keep thinking, I don't know, if the board knows me, I ask so many questions, but I keep thinking, the sooner we get our parental conference and explain to parents,
Yes.
They can help us quite a bit. And so month after month, I keep thinking, we need to have the parents already here to let them know that all this is happening, and there's a lot of work that they can do to assist us and the teachers and the principals and making sure that they're prepared for the tests. So again, I don't know, Dr. Rios, if we need to have, the parental conference at the beginning of the year, at mid-year. I certainly don't want it at the end of the year.
Mr. Mesa, we do have a schedule for January. We had it for December. However, because of the UIL, because of the Christmas parade, because of all the activities coming up, we felt we needed to change it. We have taken a lot of your advice to heart. Every session, and I've sent it back so many times, it's a total discussion about would I come, and if I come as a parent, what am I going to leave with? And it's exactly what you've been saying. How do we inform them, one, of our different programs, of how they can partner with us? What is it they can do? Because that's why they're going to come. They want to leave there knowing something. We need to train them. We need to have make and takes. We need to give them resources. We need to give them links. We need to share our planning protocol dashboard. We need to share the parental components. We also need to talk about all our different pathways, because that's not just elementary. What about middle schoolers going into early college, CTE? Which pathway? There's 14 different pathways in CTE alone. So hopefully in a couple of weeks we'll be able to share all the topics with you. I know the first time around, I'll be honest, there were a lot of community and I thought, no, it's got to be us. It's got to be our district. We have a lot. We just have to share it with parents, exactly like you said.
Whatever it takes, again, I think the board, certainly would like to have it a little bit earlier. I guarantee you, if the first year we give Julio chips, they'll come next year. Whatever it takes to get them involved and get them ready to assist us with this huge endeavor of educating their sons and daughters, but also to understand the program that we have provided for them and the big changes that are coming. So, again, whatever can be done to make it earlier and earlier. And I say Julio's chips, but, there's so many things that we can do, and they love, spreading the word that I got a free bag of Julio's chips.
A lot of advertisement for these chips.
It's a lot of advertisement, but I mean, that's what they did for Veterans Day, you know, and I think like, yeah, we have such a great resource here that they're willing to give bags, and not only the bag, they gave you the free salsa as well. Anything that works.
Free lunch.
Okay. I mean, honestly, at PTO meetings, which I'm a former principal, we had Sampling America that would send you tons of things, and we put a goodie bag for the ones that came, and the word spread. You go to the meeting, this is what they give you. It might be a free sample coffee or whatever, but whatever it takes to get the parents involved in helping us, helping everyone.
Well, Mr. Mesa, we will have the parent conference in January. We'll try to do as much as we can. And for the following year, we'll shoot for having it in September, maybe coupling it with, they say September weekend, and try to do a whole lot with it. But absolutely, the parents can help a whole lot, and we'll try to harness that energy.
Mrs. Gonzalez has volunteered to sing.
Yeah,
Oh.
I might sing right now. I gonna say, I went to the first one when I was a reporter a long time ago. It was in the summer, in August. And the parents loved it because they're involved with their kids' education and the fact that they felt really important, which they are, who they are. So I would, yeah, I'll go ahead and sing, no problem. Put me on the list.
In Spanish, in
I
Spanish.
already did.
I can do both, but I got to practice the Spanish first.
It will be at Del Rio High School, so that we can also showcase the high school.
Any other questions from board members? Becky?
It's not a question. I just want to say that because of the redesigning of the testing, it's a lot of input and a lot of work for the teachers, the principals, the parents. But I do want to say that I thank you all, because I know what it is to be there and trying to educate our students. And so I know that all the principals and everybody in the school personnel is doing the very best to work towards the goal, and that's student achievement. So thank you.
Thank you, Becky. Anyone else? We're done. Mr. Galindo?
I just had a quick question. And in September, I think we had asked, how much is going to change as far as curriculum and with the changing of the test, and y'all were mentioning how y'all got people to, put the test together and so forth. What kind of feedback have you gotten, whether it's from the teachers or parents or students, as far as how these new practice tests have been going, and what progress have you seen? I know it's early on, but what progress have you seen with the statistics that you've been getting weekly or bi-weekly on how well these tests are being done?
So probably the better ones to answer that would be the principals. The first test was administered 2 weeks, 1 week ago, I think. So Allison, I'm looking straight at you. What was the feedback from your campus? What do we still need to improve on the online assessments?
One thing that we discovered is the adults were much more worried about the online assessments than the kids were. So we were actually thankful our kids jumped on board with technology, and so it's us adults just keeping up with them. But the kids themselves are not really having trouble with it at all.
Thank you for that, Ms. Mercier.
Ms. Solis?
Definitely the same. I think more of the adults were worried about what was going to happen, how it was going to roll out. But as we get better in our planning process, we're able to find things that connect. So for example, we were not able to preview the test the first week we had it. Now we're able to say, hey, these are some things that we're finding. Can we preview the test? Can we look at which question has which specific response type? And we're able to communicate so much more with CNI. I really feel that that conversation with them right now is happening in the moments before our kids get to take their test, and that just helps us make sure that kids feel real comfortable as they take their test.
Okay. Thank y'all for that.
Ms. Webb?
You want Garfield to answer?
Yes.
Okay, that's okay. That's
Mr.
all right. I
Ramirez?
don't want to leave you out.
So you take turns.
You know what I mean?
He's
You're
new.
between the two ladies, I didn't want to leave you out.
He's just in his first few months as
Okay,
Garfield.
that's all right, sir. Your excuse. First of all, I want to thank Region 15. It's always a pleasure working with you all. Region 15 has always been here for this district, and we really appreciate everything you're doing for not only these campuses, but what you do for the district itself. And I have a couple of questions for I guess I'm not gonna mention it to Garfield then.
You can start with
I'm gonna state it, and you can look into it later, okay?
Especially in the budgets.
It said 60% of all students will meet or meet level standards. So my question was, how many students were not meeting last year that we determined 60% of the total enrollment would be at meet? But he doesn't have to answer it, it's just,
Well, the meaning behind that 60 is that is a state goal, that all campuses be at a 60% or students be at 60% at meets. So that is kind of the vision of where we want to be at, where we want to work towards that state goal.
so that being said, tells me that the campus was not at 60% right off the bat. Okay, and then for North Heights, it said increase by 15%. So 15% of 69, 15% of 70, 15% of,
100.
Our overall domain 3 score. Our overall domain 3 score. So when we look at our domain 3, we really kind of want to attack both components of the accountability system, right? So domain 3 gives us the closing the gap, but domain 1, which is increasing student achievement, happens when domain 3 occurs. And so our goal and our focus is domain 3 so that it naturally increases that domain 1 overall student achievement. We want to be a B-rated campus like everyone else. We don't want to be the outliers sitting at a C rating. And so when we look at our data and we determine that number, we're able to say which students by name do we need to move to get to closing that gap so that that domain 1 score increases naturally.
awesome, thank you. And then my last comment or question would be having to do with our parental, because we've worked with parents at so many campuses, and parents want to help. They just don't know how to help. And this can allude also to the bilingual students. They might only speak Spanish, but they want to help. They just don't know how. And with the online testing, an idea might be that we have parent trainings where the students come with them, and the student is on the computer, and the parents are seeing what they're doing, just to give them an idea as to what's going on. Because a lot of our students don't even have computers. They use them at school, all parents have cell phones, but that's besides the point. But that's just an idea, because parents do want to help. And I can tell you right now, there is not one parent that would not be there for their child. Whether it's a GT parent to a bilingual parent, they all want to be there. So again, thank you to Region 15. We applaud you for being here and for being here tonight. Like Mr. Mesa said, he wanted to send you to Rudy's, but, or Julio's.
I was about to say, or Julio's.
Or Julio's.
Wed-
you.
Wednesdays is the day to go there. I want to thank the board member for the comments, and again, principals, thank you for putting the improvement plans together. I know it takes a lot of work and a lot of effort. Even though we've had long discussions, we're doing great with the timing. We're going to the consent agenda next, thank you. And look over the minutes, where there's minutes of meetings and there's purchase orders. Again, one action will approve all items on the consent agenda. And while we're doing that, we'd like to have the donations, the abbreviated portion on page 158.
Yes,
So,
sir. I've got page 158 ready.
okay. Again, board members, look over the consent agenda. If there's a question, I'll ask you. Yes.
Monetary donations for Buena Vista Elementary. From Sharky's Shaved Ice, $190. For Buena Vista Elementary, UIL. The Sports and Pro Shop, $580. For Del Rio Freshman School Sapphires from Jose Ernesto Salazar, LLC, $2,700. For Dr. Fermin Calderon Student Council, from the Spot and Pro Shop, $100. For Bobby Barrera Elementary, from Chick-fil-A, $358. For North Heights Elementary, from the Spot and Pro Shop, $175. And from Chick-fil-A, $211. For Del Rio High School football, the Football Booster Club, $4,863. For Lamar Elementary, Read for Education, $11.02. The Spot and Pro Shop, $150. And the Del Rio Police Association, $100. For non-monetary donations, to Buena Vista Elementary Art Club, art supplies or arts, crafts, and sewing supplies from David and Mary Lou Ryan, $100. For Buena Vista Elementary, one Walmart gift card valued at $300 from Hanuel and Thomas Moore. For Del Rio Middle School, one Visa gift card valued at $25 from Border Federal Credit Union. And for Del Rio Middle School, 2 sheet cakes for October staff birthdays valued at $100 from Fairway Independent Mortgage Corporation. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. As always, we do this to appreciate the fact that there's businesses and individuals that assist us in meeting the needs of our students by supplying either materials or monetary donations. And so we show our appreciation by, again, recognizing these individuals or businesses. So again, thank you for supporting our goals and our missions here with San Felipe de Oro CISD. At this time, I'll ask if there's any question, any correction to minutes of board meetings that we've had or training. None? Everything is great? And being that there's no questions, I'll ask for a motion. Motion made by Mr. Galindo. Is there a second? Mrs. Gonzalez. All those in favor? Consent agenda is approved. We go to administration now. First item in administration, we're going to, again, bring that item back after we had the bilingual program and one of the goals. And then we go to item 12, technology and operations. Item 12A, consideration to accept the offer by Stidham LLC for the sale of a 1.57 acre tract of land, along with all the improvements situated on abstract 1050 survey 13, INGN Railroad Company, commonly known as 108 Wagon Wheel Road in Del Rio, Texas, for the sum of $465,000. Israel Carrera.
Good evening once again, Board President Mesa, Dr. Rios, members of the school board. Administration engaged in a realtor to place a property out on the open market, and we did receive an offer from Stidham LLC. The offer was $465,000.
We had some further information on the update that we had last week. I think everyone understands that there was an inspection, and so some things that were found that we're going to either allow for $5,000 to be deducted from the original amount.
Yes, sir.
Any questions? Mr. Orfeld?
I don't remember if it was mentioned in the update, but I know that we got an email from the escrow company about the
deed.
The deed?
That was another one. That's another item.
Oh, okay.
Separate.
All right.
Yes. You okay with that? Anyone else?
Yes.
Okay. If there's no questions, then what is the recommendation, please?
It is the recommendation of administration that the Board of Trustees approves the sale to Stidham LLC for the property commonly known as 108 Wagon Wheel Road in Del Rio, Texas, for the sum of $465,000, and for the board president and the superintendent to draft and/or execute the appropriate documents to finalize the sale of said property.
You've heard the recommendation. I'll entertain a motion for approval. Motion made by Ms. Orfeld, seconded by Ms. Gonzalez. All those in favor? Motion's approved unanimously. Thank you, sir. Go to item 14, Human Resources. Discussion, possible action to approve employee job descriptions and evaluation forms. Ade Garcia.
Good evening, President Mesa, Dr. Rios, members of the board. In your packet, you have a job description for the Child Nutrition Coordinator. We're requesting some updates to this job description, mostly to align it with the Maintenance Coordinator, and then also to mirror all the other job descriptions in pay grade 1, which request a bachelor's degree preferred, and also to create a bigger pool for this position.
Questions?
So is this person also gonna be the maintenance coordinator as well? Or just lining up to the similar pay and duties?
Totally different positions, but this position was the only one that had written into it to require a bachelor's degree. Well, it doesn't make sense to single that one position when the pay grades are the same and the duties are about the same. So we're just making it like the other ones.
Okay. Any other questions? Recommendation, please.
Yes, sir. It is a recommendation of administration that the Board of Trustees approve the employee job description and evaluation form as presented.
For the recommendation from administration, Mr. Alindo has motioned, and we have a second from Mrs. Webb. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. We're down to item 17, pursuant to Board Policy 551.074. Oh, no, we do have one more. Item 14B, consideration to approve the updated 2022-2023 district compensation plan.
Yes, sir. In your
Okay.
packet, we have a copy of the updates that we're recommending for our compensation pay plan. Mainly, what administration is recommending is that we would like to increase the pay for the long-term substitutes, 200 if they're 4-year degree and certification in the area that they're long-term subbing. Then also 135 versus the 110 for 4-year degree, but not certified in the area that they're long-term, and then 120 for certified and, degreed and not certified. At the same time, administration is recommending to create a new position. It's not a new position, a new, position to the substitute pay scale. It's a part-time temporary pay, and this is for individuals who hold a bachelor's degree. So what is occurring right now, because it is difficult to find teachers, sometimes the principals ask one of the aides who has a bachelor's degree to sub for that teacher until they find a candidate. Well, because that aide is at a non-exempt position, then we want to make sure that they're being compensated properly. So by changing them temporarily to a temporary teacher, then we'll pay them more so that they can go ahead and help filling that position until we find a teacher. And in addition, we had been hiring long-term substitutes, but TASB does state that we cannot have a long-term substitute for a position that is vacant. So then we would hire these individuals as temporary teachers until we fill that vacancy with an employee.
Okay, I want to make sure that I'm correct on this. Dr. Rios, we're not talking about a paraprofessional that has a degree going into a teaching position for this temporary teacher.
Yeah, Mr. President, unfortunately, that's exactly what we're talking about. Sometimes we don't find anybody to cover a class, and we need to put somebody in there because there are no long-term subs, there's nobody. So we can't put an aide to cover a class for 5 days or 10 days and keep compensating them at the same rate that they're making as an aide, because the reality is that they are going to go home and grade papers and input grades, and that is going above the hours that they're expected to work. So it's not that we're looking for a way to cover a class and not fill it. We're looking for a way to not get sued down the line when the paraprofessional says, hey, between November 15th and January 2nd, I worked more than 8 hours a day and you didn't pay me. This would alleviate us from that legal burden. That's all we're trying to do. We're not looking to be able to move aides into those jobs. We're just looking to protect the district and not expose the district to legal obligations later.
Okay. Because, again, it's been brought up before at previous meetings that we're going to talk about substitute pay increases.
That's also part of this. There's also the 3 areas that she mentioned where we needed to increase the rate of pay for substitutes. Again, long-term subs should only be used, so for example, if I'm a teacher at Lonnie Green, and I go on, okay, if Aidez is a teacher and she goes on maternity leave, then the position is filled, so I can use a long-term sub. So for that, we'd like to pay them more than what they're currently compensated, and those are the 2 areas that she talked about of increasing the substitute pay. So we're talking about both.
Okay, so if I have an outside person that wants to sub, these are going to be the rates.
Yes.
Then why do we have the other category here?
Because sometimes we can't find somebody from the outside, and plus these are just for
No.
subbing for positions we currently have a teacher in. So like, for example, give me an example of a campus that has a vacancy right now.
At Del Rio Middle School,
Okay.
behavioral unit, special ed.
Okay, so Del Rio Middle School Behavior Unit. I have a vacancy there. I do not have a teacher hired. So let's say that he has an instructional aide, Mr. Ujaral has an instructional aide who can fill that position in the meantime while we find somebody. Well, I can't expect that person to fill that position and not have, not be appropriately compensated. So it's 2 different scenarios.
So it's not really a substitute from outside.
Correct. In that case, it wouldn't be a substitute.
It's internal.
It's internal. Now, of course, our first goal would be to find a substitute from the outside, but it's difficult. There just aren't enough people out there.
Mr. Galindo, is the water muddy enough?
No, I'm just, I understand the concept and I'm all for it. I eventually want to get to the point where we talk about, or we entertain what we've talked about before, which is, I mean, raising the rates here, that's great, but also raising the rates just to get the help for the instructional aides and get more people and not have to pull instructional aides that are already doing a lot of work. But our rates are so low that of course nobody's going to want to come work and take care of a class for the rate. And I know we've asked about it, and in $58, $71, and $85, I mean, I would like to eventually see something raised there, because I see where the instructional aides are getting paid, and this is going to take care of that portion, and that's what's great about it. So great for that. But if we ever experience a high shortage, we may not even have enough people to start pulling left and right, and that work's going to pile on them. So we're taking care of them here, but there's a way that we could still pull in people from the outside with different rates and get help all around for these campuses. That's what I want to see emphasized as well.
So that position that we're calling temporary teachers also covers people from the outside. Because remember, TASB is saying that we cannot hire a substitute for a position that is vacant.
Okay.
So if we find a substitute that is out there, then we're not gonna hire them as a substitute, we're gonna hire them as a temporary worker. Because they're not certified, they're not in an ACP program, but we're gonna put them there until a candidate comes along. And they're
Okay.
gonna be getting paid $200 a day to where right now they're only getting paid $95.
I guess because it's just confusing in here, because it even says,
Yeah,
you know,
it's very
just,
confusing.
that's where we're confused at.
Yeah,
is-
where
is
you
it gonna-
see the, under part-time temporary pay,
Uh-huh,
it says must hold a bachelor's degree,
uh-huh.
so that's 200. And then if it's an internal staff, then that must be cleared through the HR department, because we want to make sure, you
But
know,
that's
how.
if they gotta have a degree for that.
Right.
And I'm still looking at the 0 to 59 and 60-plus hours.
Oh,
where
that's-
that
okay,
word- That's where
that-
I'm saying we need some help as
Right.
well. I mean,
So that is.
and that's
when
where I
you-
would like to see something
Dr.
more,
Rios?
because that's just where I'm at on this.
We agree wholeheartedly, Mr. Galindo, and earlier in the school year, we talked about what it would take to increase the rate for all substitutes.
Uh-huh.
Now, unfortunately, trying to do the big pay raise that we did for paraprofessionals in the summer, the 3% raise, and now adding the substitute and visiting with Ms. Childress, it really was beyond the ability of the budget this year.
Okay.
So therefore, we opted to recommend these critical positions where we have a harder time filling somebody. And that's why we're bringing these sub-positions for increases in pay.
And that's why, I mean, it's still some type of help, you know what I mean? And it's great because, I mean, if they have a degree, they can come in as a temporary teacher, and then maybe they're gonna enjoy it and wanna stay, and that's gonna help fill the vacancies, you know? Hopefully, if it's not this budget year or over time, we can look at the 0 to 59, 60-plus, just to get that
Yes.
help around, and that's just explained it to me, okay, maybe it's not possible. I think what's going on here is great because it's providing some help, and it's just a move in the step in the right direction. So thank you for explaining that to me,
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Garcia.
Dr. Rios, have you run this across legal counsel?
We,
TASB.
TASB, we ran across TASB, sir.
TASB? I just want to make sure because of, again, the 40-hour work week for
And we,
paraprofessionals.
I'm sorry, we did too, Dr. Rios, with Mr. Lopez.
Yes, we did.
That's right.
As a matter of fact,
Yeah.
yes, we did.
And then my other question has to do with, if you look at a substitute assistant principal, now they're going to earn less than a teacher certified in that area that they're subbing in.
Yes,
So that's
yeah.
not
And
good.
Yeah, if we increase that, then we have to increase all the others as
Yeah,
well.
we really have to improve on all of it, Mr. Mesa, but the more critical areas right now are the substitute teachers for our vacancies and being compliant. But I know that the board and the administration will look at all of it over the budget process this coming summer to try to do better. But it's difficult because we have to look at the budget year beyond next year when there are no more ESSER funds and how we're going to manage that budget. And it's just very difficult.
Right, no, I understand that. The only thing I was questioning that one because we have a current position where we are needing a substitute assistant principal. And so that's kind of makes it, you know, why would I sub as an assistant principal if I can sub as a teacher and earn more?
So,
Okay? All right. We're doing excellent timing. Yes. So again, we're in item 17, pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.074 and 55.
The
Oops,
recommendation,
we
I'm
haven't
sorry,
approved
the
the
recommendation,
compensation plan.
yes.
I'm getting ahead of everyone. The discussion's ended. We have not approved that item, so recommendation for
Yes, sir.
compensation plan. As long as you look at, again, Dr. Rios, an assistant principal, because again, it doesn't, it needs to be at least equal to or a little bit more than the teacher rate, daily rate.
we'll bring something for the next month.
Okay. Recommendation from
Yes, sir.
administration.
It is a recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve the updated 2022-2023 district compensation plans as presented.
You've heard the recommendation from administration. I have a motion from Mr. Galindo. Is there a second? Mrs. Webb, all those in favor? Now, motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're down to item 17A. Again, pursuant to Texas Government Code 501.074 and 551.071, we're going to go into closed session. Again, if action is required, it will be taken upon reconvening into open session. The time is 7:44 p.m. We are now in closed session. Okay, the time is 9:39 p.m. No action was taken in executive. We're reconvening into open session. We're down to item 18 on our agenda. 18A, consideration to approve the personnel report to include the following: new hires, district vacancies, retirements, resignations. Aide Garcia.
Good evening again. It is the recommendation of administration that the Board of Trustees approve the resignations, vacancies, and following new personnel. Samantha Rios, pre-kindergarten teacher at Irene Cardwell Elementary. Giselle Rodriguez, third grade teacher at Buena Vista Elementary. Crystal Tristan, kindergarten teacher at Lamar Elementary. Taylor Marburger, third grade teacher at Ruben Chavira Elementary. Kelsey Baird, ELA ESL teacher at Del Rio Middle School. Regina Cardenas, CTE Business Technology teacher at Del Rio High School. Christy Sanchez, Social Studies teacher at Early College High School.
For the recommendation from administration, I'll entertain a motion. Motion made by Mr. Galindo. Is there a second by Ms. Gonzalez? All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 18C, consideration, we're not doing item 18B, so we're down to 18C, consideration to approve the position of network administrator for the technology department. Aide Garcia.
Yes, sir. It is a recommendation of administration that the Board of Trustees approve Mr. Mario Gonzalez as our network administrator.
For the recommendation, there's a motion by Mrs. Gonzalez, seconded by Mr. Galindo. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
There being no other items on the agenda, is there a motion for adjournment? Motion made by Mr. Overfeld, seconded by Mr. Galindo. All those in favor? Motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you and good night.